This is a CBS News special report. Here is Dan Rather.
President Reagan arriving at this moment at Point Mugu Naval Air Station in California. Jump-off point for the trip aboard Air Force One, taking him from his California vacation back to work in Washington. A vacation cut short by the shooting down of Korean Airlines Flight 7 by the Soviets, with the apparent loss of as many as 269, all of the persons aboard. President Reagan is expected to deliver a statement shortly. Three possible subjects, we're told: the plane incident, the dispatch of 2,000 more Marines to the troubled Middle East, and the latest major shock, word this morning of the death of veteran and respected Senator Henry Jackson of Washington State, dead of a heart attack. As we await the president's statement, and he'll be giving it after he gets off his helicopter, these other developments today on the flight shot down over Sakhalin Island by the Russians. From Moscow, still no official confirmation of the plane's downing. Just that there was, quote, an accident, but not even what kind of accident from the Soviets, and nothing in the way of an apology. Also, word today that among the possibly as many as 269 passengers were 51 Americans. And later today, here in New York, a UN Security Council session expected to get underway, called by the U.S. and South Korea to condemn the Soviet action in the court of public opinion. This picture is live from the Point Mugu Naval Air Station in California. The routine in California is the president is helicoptered from his ranch at Santa Barbara to this Mugu Naval Air Station, where he transfers from the helicopter to Air Force One. Crisp salutes by the president to those military officers in charge of making sure that his helicoptering and airplaning go off all as scheduled. The president had been reluctant to cut short his vacation as late as mid-afternoon yesterday, but according to CBS News correspondent Bill Plant, who's with the presidential party, that changed early last evening.
First, let me just say that Nancy and I were deeply saddened last night to learn of the death of Senator Henry Jackson. He was a friend, a colleague, a true patriot, and a devoted servant of the people. He will be sorely missed, and we both extend our deepest sympathy to his family. Now, in the wake of the barbaric act committed yesterday by the Soviet regime against a commercial jetliner, the United States and many other countries of the world made clear and compelling statements that expressed not only our outrage, but also our demand for a truthful accounting of the facts. Our first emotions are anger, disbelief, and profound sadness. While events in Afghanistan and elsewhere have left few illusions about the willingness of the Soviet Union to advance its interests through violence and intimidation, all of us had hoped that certain irreducible standards of civilized behavior nonetheless obtained. But this event shocks the sensibilities of people everywhere. The tradition in the civilized world has always been to offer help to mariners and pilots who are lost or in distress on the sea or in the air. Where human life is valued, extraordinary efforts are extended to preserve and protect it. And it's essential that as civilized societies, we ask searching questions about the nature of regimes where such standards do not apply. Beyond these emotions, the world notes the stark contrast that exists between Soviet words and deeds. What can we think of a regime that so broadly trumpets its vision of peace and global disarmament, and yet so callously and quickly commits a terrorist act to sacrifice the lives of innocent human beings? What can be said about Soviet credibility when they so flagrantly lie about such a heinous act? What can be the scope of legitimate mutual discourse with a state whose values permit such atrocities? And what are we to make of a regime which establishes one set of standards for itself and another for the rest of humankind? We've joined in the call for an urgent United Nations Security Council meeting today. The brutality of this act should not be compounded through silence or the cynical distortion of the evidence now at hand. And tonight, I will be meeting with my advisors to conduct a formal review of this matter. And this weekend, I shall be meeting with the congressional leadership, to the families of all those on the ill-fated aircraft, we send our deepest sympathy, and I hope they know our prayers are with them all.
President Reagan at the Point Mugu Naval Air Station in California, disembarking from his helicopter, issuing a statement, and now about to aboard Air Force One for a trip back to Washington. A forcefully delivered, forceful statement by the President, including, for the first time from the President's own mouth, we hear him describe what happened north of Japan as a terrorist act. The President also used the word lie. He's done that before in referring to the Soviets, of course, but used the word lie to describe some of what has been said and done. And perhaps most significantly, the President asking the question, and not rhetorically, what value discourse with a people such as the Soviets when we are faced with what they did the last few days. That, of course, a paraphrase from President Reagan, but by any standard, a tough and forceful statement.
This is a CBS News special report, a presidential address. Here is Dan Rather.
Good evening. It's been 5 days now since a Soviet warplane shot down Korean Airlines Flight 7 after the civilian passenger liner went into Soviet airspace. 269 people, 61 of them Americans, including a United States congressman, were killed. During those 5 days, the Soviet attack has been condemned by much of the world. Some of the strongest language has come from President Reagan and his administration. Tonight, from the Oval Office, the President will add to that condemnation. Here is the President of the United States.
My fellow Americans, I'm coming before you tonight about the Korean airline massacre, the attack by the Soviet Union against 269 innocent men, women, and children aboard an unarmed Korean passenger plane. This crime against humanity must never be forgotten, here or throughout the world. Our prayers tonight are with the victims and their families in their time of terrible grief. Our hearts go out to them, to brave people like Catherine McDonald, the wife of a congressman, whose composure and eloquence on the day of her husband's death moved us all. He will be sorely missed by all of us here in government. The parents of one slain couple wired me, our daughter and her husband died on Korean Airline Flight 007. Their deaths were the result of the Soviet Union violating every concept of human rights. The emotions of these parents, grief, shock, anger, are shared by civilized people everywhere. From around the world, press accounts reflect an explosion of condemnation by people everywhere. Let me state as plainly as I can, there was absolutely no justification, either legal or moral, for what the Soviets did. One newspaper in India said, if every passenger plane is fair game for home air forces, it will be the end to civil aviation as we know it. This is not the first time the Soviet Union has shot at and hit a civilian airliner when it overflew its territory. In another tragic incident in 1978, the Soviets also shot down an unarmed civilian airliner after having positively identified it as such. In that instance, the Soviet interceptor pilot clearly identified the civilian markings on the side of the aircraft, repeatedly questioned the order to fire on a civilian airliner, and was ordered to shoot it down anyway. The aircraft was hit with a missile and made a crash landing. Several innocent people lost their lives in this attack, killed by shrapnel from the blast of a Soviet missile. Is this a practice of other countries in the world? The answer is no. Commercial aircraft from the Soviet Union and Cuba, on a number of occasions, have overflown sensitive United States military facilities. They weren't shot down. We and other civilized countries believe in the tradition of offering help to mariners and pilots who are lost or in distress on the sea or in the air.